What parameters are you using to judge that it exists? Oh, Gary, you there? Or maybe Michael can take it. What
I'm sorry, I
parameters are
was
you
washing
using?
my hands. To me, objectivity, in a sense, generally, I would say, but at least in the sense of, if we're just talking about morality, I think it's consensus building. I don't
Is it?
think that.
But we're asking for the definition of objective. What is your definition of
Yeah, I'm
objective?
saying that when you use the term objective, we're talking about consensus building. That's
That's
what objectivity is.
literally subjective.
So we would
No,
define that.
no, it's not. Like,
We would define
He's just saying what
guys,
he
guys, we're
means when he
using
looks at it.
guys, we're using too many
Let me
different
show why that does
definitions.
not work real
We need
fast.
to land on one.
I feel like
so
we
that
have to
doesn't.
grant the fears their definition because we're trying to
Let me
work
just
Well,
out
show
how
you.
they
not all of us would
we're
have
trying
our
to
same
work out just
definition. So,
briefly how they get to morality. Now, Gary just said
Okay.
it's
I'll
consensus.
use
so I'm
an
saying
analogy to
that
explain the
that
definition
objectivity
I don't want an
objective.
analogy. I don't want an analogy.
A
I want a
tree,
definition.
Can I just say one thing real
which
quick?
exists before there are any minds, right? In the history of the universe, there were trees before there were minds.
Yes.
but
That
that's not.
tree, just slow down, Gary. That tree really existed objectively,
Purely
That's
regardless
conjecture.
of any
real.
minds.
What's that got to do with
There was
morality?
God's mind before the
So
tree.
There's
we
no way
are
that
saying
that statement
that
could have
there are
any. The
truths
statement
in this
only has truth
universe,
value in a mind.
regardless of whether or not people look at them.
Okay, so you're saying objective morality is the same as objective reality. I would say before there were any minds, there was. How could there be any morality whatsoever if there were no minds?
There were moralities for things that didn't have minds.
How do you know?
Morality
Well,
that
make
we're
an
usually
argument for
talking
that. How
about
do you know
is
that?
morality of humans.
That's
Could you
no.
flesh
I
that
would
out,
say
Michael? What does that mean? Because we're all
I'm
confused.
trying to.
It's
Okay,
conflating something.
morality would be the basic measure of the proper use or mechanism of a particular thing. We usually talk about morality when we're talking about humans and the proper use and activity of humans. So yes, what Haiti's saying is true. There would be no such thing as morality as we understand it before there were any humans.
What are you talking about?
but then you
Mike,
disagree with
they
me. Then
just
that's what
asked
I
me to
said.
flesh it out.
We don't just
Yeah, I'm
talk about
agreeing with you,
morality with the
Haiti.
humans. We talk
Relax.
about the animal ethics
No,
too.
you are not, because you said there was a tree and that was objective. Therefore, morality is objective. I said
Right, because there
before.
was the nature
No,
of
no,
the
no, no,
tree.
no, 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 no. Before, and I said before there were any minds, there wasn't a morality, and
And
so
I agreed with you.
well, then there's pointless talking about trees, isn't it?
No, we didn't.
No, but
Well, Mike,
Mike,
you're talking about
The trees
Mike,
say
I
Logic,
get
trees.
your
The
bro.
trees
Guys,
say
Hold
calm
up,
morality.
bro.
down. Everyone.
one second, guys. One
Enough.
second. But I get your argument, Mike. But it's not like you framing it
He
wrong.
just disagreed
I
with his
think what
own
you mean.
argument.
Say again.
He just disagreed with his
Can
own
you
argument.
call him
His
Oh,
Mike?
okay.
argument
Sorry.
was
Hayden,
well, he's a
things
Hold
little
on.
exist
keep
Just call
before
him
asserting that
Michael
minds.
and
now.
not Mike.
It's not
And
going to be helpful if he just
Michael,
yells
you
at
be
each
trolling.
opponent.
Makes sense.
can
But
you
Yeah, that's
how
Dan,
you
can you explain
demonstrate?
it
But
then?
how you demonstrate the objectivity
One at
is
one
through
at a
is.
time, please, guys.
But
Let's
hey,
do this.
James,
Let's
I'm
let
just
two
asking
people
James.
talk at once. So
James,
let's do
I'm
this.
just
Let's do.
asking him to just call him Michael and me Mike, so there's no
Okay.
fucking
So
confusion.
so
Sorry.
let's
fine.
do Jay and Michael for a few minutes. Then we can do Michael and him after that, and then we can do
Well, I think I was
Haiti
talking with
with him
Charles,
next.
no?
But I don't.
I,
Sorry,
I
but
actually asked
Oh, was
Gary
it
a
Timothy?
question,
James,
but
James,
I
I
wanted.
don't.
Sorry,
I just think we're having too many atheists trying to engage with one
No,
theist at a
I was
time, and
just
we're
trying
not
to
getting anywhere.
mention.
Okay.
I
Just
was
to be
just
quick,
trying to
just to
mention
be
like
quick though, yeah.
call him Michael and not Mike, because then I think you're responding. I think someone's talking to me
I'll call you Jay.
yeah, or just Jay. But first off, you said a couple things that I want to address. One, morality doesn't just deal with humans. Like there's people like that would contest, especially vegans.
When humans talk about morality, that's what they're talking about.
No, it
That's
isn't.
fine. That's fine. So like, look,
What's the
somebody could just
morality of a tree?
I said
look. That's
minds. I
fine.
said
We could do
minds.
like
Trees
an
don't have
equator thing.
minds.
Look, listen,
I
hold
thought
on.
we were doing one-on-one, Haiti.
Right. If I can say one, yeah. If I can say one thing. So the way that like you had you seem like you wanted to engage with the literature. I'm confused, like, and then you didn't. So I'm trying to see like if it's objective to you and you agree with like stance independent or mind independent, right? And
Sure.
clearly the morals can't like be instantiate. I'm trying to see like where you think they are, because if there's not some like natural fact that you're going to say has some normative value, which I think is incoherent.
That's correct.
Yeah, so if you're saying it's
There
like within
is a natural fact that is
I don't think that's a realist position. So where exactly are you establishing this? I think that we could just.
I'm studying the humans, discerning their nature, and deriving from that principles to live by.
Awesome. So do you have like an argument that you could present, like with premises and a conclusion?
Sure.
Okay, so what's the first premise?
All humans are mortal.
Okay, second premise.
Ending a human's life is an irrevocable act.
Okay, that seems to be normative because someone could just disagree
It's not.
with it.
It's a statement of fact. It's true.
Irrevocable is going to be normative. Someone's going to say, I don't agree with that. Like that normative.
You're saying that you can bring someone back from the dead?
If you're just saying in terms of like they can't come back, that's fine. If you're saying like irrevocable in terms of their actions, then that's a difference.
All I'm saying, Jay.
Okay, yeah, they can't. Well, potentially they can't come from the back from the dead.
No, fine. I'm stating it, and you can argue and say that it's not true that you can bring people back.
I mean, for Jesus, they might be able to come back, but yeah, sure.
Okay,
Jmike, are you pushing back against when Michael says irrevocable? Is that what?
I'm asking if it was actions or just the fact that humans can actually come back. That's all. Like
I'm saying humans cannot come back from the dead.
The actions.
I'm stating it and asserting it. You can disagree with it if you'd like.
Yeah, you can't come back from the dead. I might have misinterpreted it the first time. That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So humans are mortal. The ending of a life of a human cannot be undone. The ending of the life of a human also prevents them from utilizing their abilities while they are alive. Also true?
Yeah, all descriptive. Yep, everything's descriptive. Let's go ahead.
Okay. Humans are a cooperative species that depend upon the cooperation of other humans.
Potentially descriptive. That's the case. Descriptive. Fine. Go ahead.
Okay. In order for humans to function with each other, they ought not murder each other.
That's fine. If you want to add a premise, a normative premise.
No, that was a conclusion.
Oh no, that doesn't logically follow.
How do you figure?
Because you can't have because no ought statement follows from a set of descriptive statements. That's
You're
just stating
that conclusively, even though my evidence did present the conclusion.
This is just a mere point of how deductive logic works, right? Like, have you taken classes in logic?
Does anyone else think that my conclusion led for my evidence?
You did the same thing earlier.
I know, and Jay didn't understand it then either.
I think what the problem is, Michael, is that when you jump to that last conclusion, you're not accounting for how it refers to the other two conclusions. So it is possible, isn't it, that people can kill people and that it might bring a greater good to that society, right? Is that possible?
In certain instances, sure.
Right. So do you
hold on? I really want to pin him on this. And please let me, because we've gotten to this point. I really want to pin him on this. He thinks that a set of descriptive premises can constitute it. Which what he's saying is like even worse, like a bunch of descriptive premises about cats. Like I'm not gonna be able to like derive some like notion of how philosophers ought to like conduct philosophy. Like clearly, it's the same like type of logical gap he's making. This is a point about just deductive logic. You don't go from like I have all these descriptive premises about
You're stating that axiomatically.
Hold on, I'm not done. I'll let you know when I'm finished. I'll say I'm done. So when we go through these premises and we say humans will die or they can't come back from the life, blah blah blah, that's fine. Those are all things that happen, right? The same way that if the lungs, if I smoke a cigarette, might cause me cancer or something like that. That's fine. But that doesn't subsume the value that I should give a shit. I know people that are like, yeah, I want to smoke cigarettes and die and get cancer and die. I know people like that, right? So to conclude that some descriptive premises about how people are and that we should be in some evaluative standard, which is just to say some normative standard in a conclusion, doesn't logically follow. It's just a mere point in deductive logic. Like this isn't solved. Like this is the Sam Harris school of thinking that it's solved when it's not.
So what is your critique?
You can't get an ought from an is, Mike.
The value, you have to have a premise, a normative premise, right? So when you
I
say
didn't use any normative premises.
I know you didn't. That's the problem. For you to validly,
is that a problem?
For you to even have a valid deduction when we have like a hypothetical imperative to say like, if I want to do X, then I should do Y. That's fine. Like if I want to go to the store, then I should take my boat across the lake, or I should drive my ATV.
Okay, can I state as a premise humans want to live?
But that's just to buy in to a normative premise, right? The idea
you're stating it axiomatically. I feel like the problem is that you've accepted into your mind a presupposition that is forcing you to not be able to understand how you can get to an ought from an is.
No. This is just a point about. So you think that the value?
Keep stating it axiomatically.
let me explain it to you. Do you think that the value is subsumed in the premises?
Okay, great
Do you think
question.
What do you mean by that?
Stay there, Mike. Just stay there, Jmike. Can you answer that one, Michael? Maybe you want to repeat it,
I'm not
Jmike?
sure what he means by that. The value is
Okay,
subsumed in the premises.
normative is a value. You're displaying facts. Okay, I'm at 4% battery, so I'm trying to go grab my charger. So hopefully it doesn't die. But you're displaying facts in your premises or facts about the world. Okay,
True.
that's fine. So where's the value subsumed in the premises? That's the only way you can conclude a value. If you're concluding a value, like in the conclusion that we should behave a certain way, it doesn't logically follow, because I can just go, I don't fucking care about your value, and I just literally debunk your conclusion by assessment of my value that disagrees with you. I just have an antithetical value, therefore you're fucking wrong. It's trivial.
You're saying like if your value is that you like killing people, then you can like reject the premise?
Yes, precisely.
Yes.
How
You
do
could have
you
said
adjudicate
that.
who has the right
Jay.
value?
All right,
How do you
Jay.
adjudicate who has the right value?
Jay, what I want to highlight is exactly the point of the title. Atheists have no objective morality to stand on, because
This has
you're
nothing to do
saying
with
if you want to
atheism, dude.
murder
Stop
somebody,
projecting.
the
Stop
entire
projecting. This has
argument goes
nothing to do with
away.
atheism. This has to do with meta-ethics. This is a problem for theism or atheism. Stop projecting your
Except
ignorance.
that the theists have no problem with
It's
it.
not
That's
to
all they
everybody.
do.
Mike, I
You're at
think this
least
could be.
making
But hold
yourself
on,
look really dumb to me.
But
At the
one
very
second,
least,
Mike.
you're
Yeah,
making yourself look really dumb.
Jay,
Calm
Mike.
down,
One second. But yeah,
Jay.
we don't need to call each other dumb. But like, it would probably be even better if you made Michael aware of your understanding of what normative means, because I
Sure.
think the fact that there's this this standard outside of what
He
you
knows
people are.
as a self-proclaimed philosopher, he should know what normative means. But I can help him out if he doesn't.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
think that's the disconnect
Help me.
at this point.
As if I were a child.
So normative means to be held to an evaluated standard. Would you agree?
That normative means to be held to a what standard?
It's some evaluative standard, what you ought to do.
Sure.
Your conclusion was normative because it had an ought statement in it.
Exactly.
Correct.
You can't conclude like so. And I gave this to you earlier when you left, which was that premise one: people feel
I was kicked.
phenomenological and physiological pain experience they call pain. Premise two: Jmike doesn't want to feel pain. Conclusion: we ought not hurt Jmike. And you agree that doesn't follow, and you said the conclusion doesn't follow, and that's precisely the isod. The value doesn't follow from the set of facts.
But
You agreed, but then contradicted yourself by denying that we couldn't do that, right? So better yet,
I'm not following.
Better yet, just
Oh my God.
to solve the issue, to make me look dumb, right? To make me look stupid after everything I've said for the last 2 hours. Show me in my syllogism where you do fix the conclusion without adding a normative premise. Do that for me, and I will
did that before.
Worship you for the rest of your life.
Well, please don't do that.
Okay.
No, I will. I really will.
Okay,
if you give me that.
prefer you
I don't
didn't.
think you can.
Michael, is it okay if you get one more chance and then we just move on to another theist?
Yeah,
Gary
but
there.
like, I think
that we ought
hold on,
not
but
hurt Jay.
Sure. If
I
any,
can
I
give
think
you
that
the
we ought
premises
not
to be
hurt
fair.
Jay
that way we're
because
not
he is
having
a
to
human being, and we humans require the assistance of other humans to survive. So we are best off respecting Jay's wishes.
So best
What,
off
right?
isn't the same with ought. I think that's the
Exactly.
fallacy there that you're committing. But it's
No,
fine.
I'm allowed to use
no,
the
but
ought in the
best off
conclusion.
isn't ought, but
I don't think you
rather than but hold on, Mike, but like with respect, Michael,
Best
sorry,
off
with
is the
respect,
conclusion. I'm allowed to use normative in the conclusion. I'm not allowed to use normative in the evidence.
no, but it doesn't follow is what they're saying. But what's more important
It follows
is
to anyone listening.
you be comfortable with the distinction. That's what's more important, rather than wasting time going around in circles and chasing your tail.
Yeah,
You be comfortable with the distinctions and the definitions. So then if you genuinely want to challenge their understanding of normativity, then you can, because at present it's not following, and there's no point in trying to refactor their syllogism, because you're just doing the same thing over and over. Say again.
Do you think that the reasoning follows?
No, you can't.
No.
You can't get an ought from an is. You can't derive the ought from an is.
One second. I want to unpack this a little bit. I want to talk to Timothy for just a second. Jay, please.
No, but I'm genuinely like, honestly, I genuinely don't have as much patience. But honestly, Michael, I genuinely don't have as much patience or care that much. I'm just saying for the sake of you guys maybe discussing and not insulting each other, maybe become au fait with the maybe become au fait with the terms he's using, because something like normative for you to know what an is-ought contradiction is, you kind of need to know what normative is and be comfortable with, if you disagree, challenging his definition. So until you're at that point, I would just say, for the sake of like not talking past each other, maybe just focus on that portion of it and then come back with the complete
I
argument.
agree. He keeps coming back to an example that he wants to work on and we disagree on. But so you're right. We should be focusing on the premises we disagree upon,
We should
not
be
on the
letting
conclusions
someone
we disagree
else.
upon.
No, but that's the
This
No,
problem. That's
because
the
in,
it doesn't
problem.
follow,
You
So
Michael.
what,
that's the
Jay,
problem.
what
We
is the
disagree.
problem with getting from an is to an ought? Why do you
it
think that
can't
is
be
logically
done.
incoherent?
It can't be.
Hold on.
Why?
Okay,
Why do you
there's
think
a
it can't be?
moderator speaking, so maybe
Let
we
me
just.
explain it to you.
I just,
Let me explain
does
it to you.
anyone else
Let me explain it to you.
want to talk, because we've been focusing on Mike
Yeah,
for an
I
hour
wanted
and
to
a half.
ask Jmike a
Look,
question.
I'll leave.
It was
I have to leave because
2
I've been in
hours.
here for like
Do you want to
3
just
hours. So
okay, Jay, do you want to just finish up with Michael, and then after that we'll move on? How about, is
oh
that
yeah,
everyone?
let
Is
me
everyone good
finish
with
up
that?
and I'll
Let,
yeah,
let
that'd
me
be
let me
perfect.
state it very
Then
clearly.
I'll shut
You
my
are
mic off
basically
because
saying
I
I
gotta do
ought
things around the
not
Wait,
house.
guys,
engage
we
in
can't
an
hear
is
either of you
ought
guys.
proof. I want to
Okay,
know.
so Mike, hold on real fast because I got to do stuff around the house. So and I've been here for 2 hours. You had left previously. We had a conversation, then you came back. So the initial thing was the premises I gave, right? So there's a couple ways we can deal with this. One is that I gave some premises, which was people feel, and you can write this down. People feel a phenomenological / physiological experience they call pain. Right? You just put that as people feel pain, or what they call pain. Premise 2. Jmike doesn't want to feel what people call pain. Conclusion: we ought not cause Mike pain. Right? So you agreed with me that the conclusion doesn't follow, right?
Correct.
My reason is that because you don't get an ought and is from an ought. Now, seemingly, you're saying that conclusion doesn't follow, but you can have a normative conclusion that does follow.
That's right.
Right? To solve this whole thing, which is what I was saying earlier, I'll get on my knees and kiss your toes if you can answer the conclusion from those premises, right? That logically follows.
All right,
with the
but Jay,
inference.
we have to do it through dialogue, okay?
No, just give me the give me the conclusion
Jay,
that follows from the premises.
I will only do it through dialogue.
So you're telling, okay, that's fine. Listen, I'll let you do it through dialogue.
All right. So Jay, I have a question for you.
But I'm asking you a question.
Don't ask him questions. You haven't got time for Socrates.
Don't ask questions.
If you're not, Michael, if
all
you're
right,
just
then you'll never get there. I can't get you to understand it if you won't answer a question.
That's fine, Mike. Just a yes or no. Are you going to give me the conclusion? Are you going to give me the conclusion
just make
or
your
not?
case. You don't need to ask questions. We haven't got time.
Yes, precisely. Hades right. Just give me the conclusion. If you can't, then don't open your mouth and say that you can do something that you can't. It's that simple.
I can, and I technically already have, but this is why we need to ask
Does
questions.
anyone think he did? Because
Jay,
I don't think he explained that.
Michael is free to make himself look silly, and he often does.
Go ahead, Michael.
Guys, okay, I'll ask very simply.
No,
Jay.
no questions.
Give me the conclusion.
Okay, how about this? Here's my conclusion. There is no evidence, none, supporting the contention that one cannot arrive at an ought from an is.
How does that follow from the premises I gave you? I gave you premises.
Disprove it if you can.
Michael, I gave you premises. How does that follow?
Prove it.
Michael,
I
gave
maybe if we just started with an example of a simple deductive argument that might help ground conversation.
Show me that an is cannot be brought to an ought.
Hold on, I'm actually getting frustrated now. Now you typically don't. Harlequin,
I know.
that's precisely what I did. I'll do it for the fucking 20th time.
Not by example.
No.
Not
for the
by
20th
example. I want you to prove it.
Premise 1.
Prove it.
Premise 1, people feel
that doesn't prove it.
phenomenological and physiological state they call pain. Premise 2, Jmike doesn't want to feel pain.
Invalid argument.
We ought not hurt Jmike.
Fails to prove
the right
the
normative
claim.
conclusion.
You have failed to prove the claim.
Michael, he's giving you an example. So, again,
I know. It's the same
you're short.
Is this supposed to prove objective morality, or what's it supposed to prove?
Prove that one cannot derive an ought from an is.
That's
prove
not
it.
an argument.
It is, in fact, an argument.
It's not an argument.
Prove it.
But Haiti, or some mod,
for hours, but you can't prove it.
But
hold on,
Michael.
Yeah? No, Michael. Let me answer you, Michael. I'm going to answer your fucking question.
Prove
this is
that
the point about
get to an ought from an is.
I'm going to answer you why you can't.
Can everyone calm down for a second, just for 1 second? Can everyone calm down just for 1 second?
No.
But hold on, but 1 second, please. I beg you. Let me just say this one sentence, and I'll go on mute. At this point, it literally is just fucking attention seeking. We get it. You're not going to agree. It doesn't matter what is said to you. You're not going to
I
agree
don't
with it.
care about the
If you're not
meta.
going to, if you're not going to consult the literature, if you're not going to consult that, then what's the point anyway? Because you're not going to convince anyone on this side, and clearly no one's going to convince you with
Are you
any
talking to
rational,
me or
with any
Jay?
reasoning.
He's
Michael, so just
talking to
let it go.
you.
And
I can
Jay,
be swayed.
you need to just calm down, bro. It's not
I
that deep. I mean,
guarantee I
it's
will
not that deep.
change my view if someone can prove that you can't get to an ought from an is.
Okay,
So
so
go
let
prove
me.
it.
I will. I'll explain it to you right now, and I'm going to show you why you just did like the most classic shifting of burden of proof, because you literally were like, "You can't do
Yeah,
that."
because
Right?
you're asserting a thing is
made the claim,
impossible.
and then you welched on the claim, and we're like, "Well,
You
show me."
are
Right?
asserting
That's
a
like
thing is
the
impossible.
classic like 4-year-old meme move that anybody would make when they don't know what
You
the fuck
are
they're talking
asserting
about.
an
You
impossibility.
demonstrate that for everybody in the room, so thank you for that. 2, I'll explain to you why you can't get an is from an ought. It's very, very simple,
Good.
right? If I look at something in the world, right? If I say smoking causes the lungs cancer, therefore you ought not smoke, do you think that logically follows?
No.
Okay, so you can't derive an ought from it because the value is not subsumed in the premises, right?
No, you
In
can't
descriptive
derive
premises.
that ought from that is.
Okay, so now, so now that you think that the claim that you
Prove
can't,
it.
right? The fact of mere deduction that here's
Prove it
the
for all
argument for
cases.
why you can't. Here's the argument for why you can't. The facts
Good.
in the description don't contain the value. The conclusion does. So you can't sneak the value, and that's the argument. Okay. So now show me precisely where the descriptive premises sneak in a value without that becoming normative. Please do that for me.
What do you mean when the premises sneak in a value?
If you have a value in the descriptive premises, it's going to be normative, will it not? Like, this is just a very trivial point.
I disagree, because you're saying that the only way I can get to a normative conclusion is if I have a value in the premises.
Yeah. So look. So for
But you have
example,
to
when
prove that. That's a claim.
yeah. So I will.
I don't
I'll
have to
I'll
provide a
prove it to you in a
counterexample.
syllogism
You have
right
to
now.
illustrate it
I'll prove it to
deductively.
you deductively. I'll prove it to you deductively. Premise
Please
1:
do.
smoking causes cancer. We'll say can because it doesn't always, right? So smoking
This
can
is
cause
an analogy.
emphysema or something like that, right?
Sure.
So premise, conclusion: you ought not smoke. Okay. Now, the reason why that doesn't follow, or any normative conclusion, right? For the same reason it doesn't follow, is because someone just can go, yeah, I don't give a shit. That's not my value. Your
Is that an
conclusion.
inductive reasoning you're engaged in?
Listen. You're not even letting me finish. The reason why the conclusion doesn't follow, right? Why the inference rule is like invalid, right? Is because the person's value there isn't even actually in accord. They could just go, no, I want to smoke. I want to die from cancer. I fucking hate life. That could be a value. There's no contradiction at all
Sure.
identifying of that being their value. So that applies
I
to
agree.
any case. Yes, so you agree. So on pain of your agreement.
How do you know
right?
it applies to any case?
Hold on, let me finish, Michael. On pain of your agreement, you just nailed your own nail in the coffin by saying that. By on pain of your agreement, that applies to.
Hey, real quick, just a quick pause,
oh my
guys.
fucking god!
No,
That
hang on,
applies
hang
to
on.
every
Wait, hang on.
descriptive.
I
I'm
need to.
Breathe, Jay.
fucking get the last sentence out. I'm just gonna leave. I don't care.
No. I have to get Michael down to the audience real quick and then back up so I can get another guy in the room. Michael has him blocked, but he's been trying to get in. So, Jmike, you can continue your thoughts, but Michael, I'm just moving you down for a minute. I'll move you back up once he comes back in.
It's just like really frustrating when like I try to make a point, like, and I get it, James, but it's like it's frustrating when I try to make a point. I've gotten interrupted like every fucking time I try to make a point. It's really frustrating. So whenever we add a premise, like in that argument, like I ought to care about my bodily autonomy, that's a normative premise. If I analyze that argument and I go, okay, premise 1, smoking causes cancer, emphysema. Yeah, that's true. It's a true fact about the world. It does do that. Premise 2, or a conclusion, whatever your conclusion is, feel like you shouldn't smoke. Right? If we add some normative premise, like premise 2, I should care about my body or like the longevity of my health. If I buy into that normative premise, then yeah, sure, the conclusion follows. I shouldn't smoke. I bought into a premise prior that says I should care about the longevity of my health. If I deny the conclusion, right, then I'm just contradicting myself, because clearly, like, I shouldn't follow that value if I bought into the normative. That works.
But
That works, right?
Jmike,
But
if
it
Michael's
doesn't
not going
work
to
to just
present an
say
argument,
like
but
that you can
listen,
do an
Jmike,
descriptive.
if Michael's not going to present
I
you an
won't finish my
argument,
last sentence. You go ahead. I won't finish
but
my last
I'm
sentence.
saying, but I'm saying,
Hold on,
you're just
hold on,
repeating
Jmike,
yourself.
guys. Get to the important part.
you're just repeating yourself at this point.
No, it's
And
fine. No, I won't finish. You go ahead. It's fine. Go ahead.
yeah, no, thanks for that. Appreciate it. But like I said, you're just repeating yourself. He's not going to present you an argument. He's not going to consult any literature. It's just, I don't know. You're just chasing each other's tails. I guess I
It's
know
still
you guys like
beneficial
each
for
other's
the
You're right.
attention.
stage.
You're
I
absolutely
mean,
right. That's fine. That's whatever. I mean,
so like
look,
it's an opportunity to like, you know, show like, for example, like because like yeah, you brought up the infants rules, and so like when we're actually following that, like when it does actually follow, I think would be apt to bring up. But I know you've gone over it a lot, Jmike, so I don't blame you for not wanting to go through it again.
No, he
I'm
wants to.
so
He
I'm
wants to.
so
It's
over
just
the
the
conversation.
first 17 times was sufficient, and Michael's not gonna
No,
understand.
we
Like
want
he's not gonna accept clearly. Like he's a dog with a bone, and they're like,
I'll give
do
you
you know
an
what I mean? It's
example.
just
A
it's fine.
person
Yeah,
is a
Michael doesn't know
human.
what he's talking
A
about.
human
I'll
ought to
establish
do
that
what a
2 hours
human
ago, and I
ought to
established
do.
that 2 hours ago, and we established it again right now. So there's
J.
no
Mike
more we
is
need
a
to do.
human. Humans ought to do what humans ought to do.
What?
like,
Meaning, if I
just
define
stop,
you as
man,
a human,
just stop it, please, just
Look,
stop,
by
Michael, I can help
just
you
definition,
out.
stop.
you
This
ought
is
to
the Sam
engage
Harris
in the
school of thinking.
behavior of a human.
Yeah, Mike, this is like when Sam Harris tweeted and he goes, A is bigger than B, but why ought we think A
I'm
is
actually
bigger than
setting
B?
A.N. Pryor's point, objecting
No, I
to
know. I'm
Hume's
just
problem of
saying
the
you're
is
making
ought
a
gap.
tiny trivial mistake that shows you don't
His
understand the
example
issue.
was he is a
Sam
sea
Harris.
captain. It logically follows he ought to do what a sea captain ought to do.
Can I just bring in something linguistically here? Because the word
Please.
ought, thank you. The word ought to is ought is a modal verb. Sorry, English teacher here, bit of a grammar nerd, etc. Ought to implies choice, not necessity. So it's an interesting terminology using. I'm far from a philosopher, but I've been listening carefully, and I'm a theist as well, so I'm happy to share my views from a morality point of view. But ought to means you should, but you've still got a choice. Hence,
Right.
therefore, you can say, no, I am going to go and murder someone, or I do smoke myself, so I am going to smoke, even though I'm aware of
That's
these
why
things.
objective morality
Right.
is just you can just say I don't care.
Well,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Correct.
Exactly. You can't subsume the value that you put in the conclusion simply just because you just think it's the case. Like that,
Yeah.
right? The fact that you go, hey, like something as trivial as like we should all agree that because cancer is caused when you smoke that you shouldn't do it. Like that does not mean every person has that value. The whole idea is that you're trying to derive the value. But if you can just have some actual account for some independent normative stance, whether it's in a natural fact in the world like a moral naturalist would do, or some value properties that maybe somebody might invoke. If you can just substantiate that, then we can invoke what we ought to do off of that independent standard. That's what the objectivist needs to do in all cases, but they
And that's
don't.
But
what I
it's
did.
still, with the use of the
It's just
word
an
ought, it remains
authoritarian, right?
subjective, doesn't it?
Yes,
Correct.
I'm a subjective.
normative is a better
It's
description,
normative.
classification. Like it relies upon this standard.
Meaning J.
So
Yeah.
Mike is a
you must
human.
subscribe to the standard.
Therefore, J. Mike ought do what humans ought do.
Yeah, but I think
That does not
But it
the
follow.
doesn't
major
How do
have
you
point here
know
to.
though
what
is
Poor
humans ought
Michael.
to?
I can show why that doesn't follow. I want to go
Bloody
be a cow. I
circular.
want to go eat
but
fucking grass.
the
It
major
doesn't
point
matter.
is
You're
though
not a cow.
Michael,
You're a
hold
human.
on, Michael's
Honestly, guys, I can't
debating.
figure out what you are even arguing. What
Well,
is the
Michael's.
contention here?
Jay
I
has
think you can
difficulty
You
get
should
an
understanding
engage
the
in the
argument
concept of an
literature,
is,
ought.
Matt.
and he's
Matt, you're definitely not engaged in the literature, so that makes sense why you don't understand.
So I'll pass it on to
So
Jay.
Shouldn't
does this
Michael be
go back
providing an
to
argument
can
though? Like for
atheists
you,
I did
establish an
provide an
objective
argument.
moral standard or not?
no, but for this level of for
You're not
this level
engaged
of
in the.
investment,
I
of
provided an
somebody making a
argument.
claim,
I'll repeat
should
it.
it? Yeah, but Mike, if it's sorry, Michael, I apologies. It has failed multiple times.
yeah,
How
no
did it
one's
Like
fail?
buying it.
No,
The
no
only
one
just
argument
objected to
you
it
my
should be
have,
argument
enough,
that
man.
J. Mike ought do what humans ought do.
Yeah,
humans
no, I
ought
want to
do
go eat
nothing.
grass like a
Who's?
fucking cow. That's what I want to do. So your
How
deductive
can you?
logic fucking fails.
How can you prove
That's
that
still an
humans
is
ought to
ought,
do
Michael.
Yeah,
anything?
like what don't
How
you
you're just
understand?
going
Plus,
back
Because
it's
to
the
like
another
ought
ought.
is a
vacuous and
conclusion, guys. The
tautological.
ought is conclusion. His whole argument
Your
is that I
premise.
can't
That's
put
the
an ought in the
problem.
conclusion unless I have an ought in the premises. My premise contains no oughts. My conclusion does contain an ought.
Yeah, and it's
What?
Okay?
fallacious for the
Same
same
But there's
case.
no
reason, Michael. Why
reason.
And
do
it
you
doesn't
understand
Nothing was
this? It's
follow.
so
fallacious
That's
about what
like
I
fallacious.
said.
please let go. Just let go of it. It's
Yeah.
enough. It's
And
enough.
how
Let
does
go.
this
Let it go,
answer the
Jay. Think
question
on
of the
it.
room?
It's not.
I
We're
think you can
talking about
figure it out if you
something
think
Okay,
about
so
it.
it's not okay. Gotcha.
because
I think saying it's not good in the middle of like when someone's trying to explain. I get it. Maybe you're right. Maybe you are right. But right now there's a great explanation that's being cut off to show him why he's wrong. He goes, Jmike's a human, therefore he ought to do human things. It's still the same fucking problem because look, I don't want to be a human. I want to go do non-human things. Are you
But
saying
you are
that I'm?
human.
No, that's fine. I'm a human, but it doesn't mean I act. There's nothing that follows that I should act in accordance with what we deem
Your
as
humanity.
human, right? I can go
Jmike could
do
be
That's
a
not
things.
furry though,
I can
right?
go fucking
So
do things that are
it wouldn't
non-human.
Whatever it
follow.
is humans
Like,
ought to do,
lick my
Jake can
asshole
do
why.
like a
that
dog.
Why?
because
Why
he's
should
human.
humans ought to do? Why should anything do what it ought to do? That makes no
Because
sense.
they are what they are.
By what
So
standard?
what?
Do you not
That's
understand?
right.
By who's
So
saying the ought? Who's saying they must or must not?
You're
Who?
asking how do we define
Like
what humans
Jesus
ought to
Christ, man.
do,
It's
and
enough
that's
now,
a
I
man.
think
fair
Charles
investigation.
It's
is
enough,
But we
bro.
know
Um,
conclusively that Jmike ought to do whatever it is humans ought to do
why? Why?
because he's human.
What is that? That's
Oh, so
irrelevant. You
therefore
already
I
said
ought to
that.
do it.
You're just going
Yeah.
around in a
It's not
circle.
You're
irrelevant. It's the only
challenging
thing
the
we're
Yeah,
discussing.
conclusion.
this has literally gotten nowhere in the last 30 minutes
Completely
I've been
I
listening.
know,
circular.
because
It's
Jay doesn't understand how oughts work.
No, Michael,
no, no. I
because
Okay,
think
you're
it's
okay,
you
fucking
who
I don't
doesn't
understand
attention
how
understand
ought
how.
seeker, bro.
Okay, let's try this, guys. So, I understand where J Mike's coming with the is-oughts because, like for example, there is a way when you could technically present an is-ought, but it's not quite working. So, like for example, if the car is coming, you ought to get out of the way, but there's other premises built in there. Now, within the framework of philosophy, you technically can't drive an is from an ought. It's just not something. But what I want to do is I want to give Michael, lay out your argument for why you believe that is wrong, and then we'll let people interact with it.
He's been doing it for an hour, and all he's got is they're human, so they ought to, and they ought to because they're human.
Yeah, exactly.
That there is no argument. There is no
Yeah, there's
argument
no
to.
argument.
And if
He
I
Yeah,
if I
just
I
want to
can't
commit
see that
if I
he's
want to
been able
commit
to lay out any
suicide,
argument like that.
if I want to commit suicide, I ought to be in front of that car, right? Like it's just it doesn't follow.
Exactly,
That's the point.
exactly.
It doesn't
No,
follow.
I
That's
never
just
said
silly.
that you
hold on.
should
That
get out of the way of the car.
hold on. It might follow on a conditional statement to say, if I want X, then I should do Y. Like if I want to go to the store, right, then that's fine. But when you lay that out in the premises, the normative premise is in a premise. It's not being derived from description.
Yeah,
That's all.
Okay,
that's
let's
why
try it different ways. J.
that's why
Mike
when I
is a
was
male.
telling
J. Mike is a college student. A college student or a male should engage in the activities that a college student or male ought do
Why?
Why?
because they are male
Y-
college student
Okay,
humans.
so he's a college student. He should do what college students do because he's a
Yes.
college student.
Yep.
Why?
Let me add the premise. If I
Because
want
it's
to
his
succeed at
definition.
college, hold
If
on.
I want to
Let me add what he's
graduate,
missing. Let me add what he's
No, you
missing,
don't
right?
have
If
to
I
say
want to
graduate.
graduate, then I ought to care about school, right? That's the normative premise that you're missing. That's the whole idea.
I
That's
didn't
the
say
gap.
that you have to graduate.
you said
I know, but listen, then listen, you're not understanding what the gap is, right? Because the gap is clearly that you're deriving
You're
some goal.
imagining a gap,
You're
Jay.
deriving
no.
a
There's a gap.
goal without
There's
having
no
the
gap.
value,
My
dude.
logic is sound.
Michael, do
No.
humans
No, it's
kill?
not.
Do humans kill
Everybody in
people?
philosophy disagrees with you, literally. What's the
Except for
inference rule?
A.N. Pryor and everyone that
Hold on,
argued
hold
on
on.
Hume, like
Not,
Hilary
no, no,
Putnam
no.
or
Stop,
Alexander
stop, 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 stop.
McIntyre or
Stop.
John Searle.
It's not sound. It's not even about sound. It's not valid, motherfucker. What's the inference rule? It's not even valid.
All you're saying is things ought to act according to their nature, but you
No,
have
Mike,
never said.
I
You have
have to
never
challenge him on
said
this. What's
why.
the
You've never
inference rule? I
said
have to
why.
challenge him on this. What's the fucking inference rule? If you're gonna say everything I said
It's
is sound, you
definitional.
just demonstrated that you still don't know what you're talking about because this isn't an issue of your
Jay,
premise
you
being
have to
sound.
breathe.
This is an issue of the inference rules that you're applying, dude. You don't have valid inference rules.
Calm down.
Look, I don't care about the meta of calming me down. That means nothing to me. What's the
I'm
fucking
telling you
inference?
that you need to like chill. All
I
right?
don't give
You're
a
getting
shit.
very worked up and you're
Okay,
getting stuck on this
ought I
one
chill
point
out? Ought I
that you
chill
could
out?
just
No, I
let
don't. So
go and
fucking answer the
relax.
question.
So
No,
John Wayne
ought I
Gacy is
chill
a
out because
serial
this is
killer.
so
John
no.
Wayne Gacy ought to kill other people.
Exactly.
Does that
Even
sound?
Matt gets it.
yes,
Even Matt
Correct.
gets it.
That
Thank
is
you.
correct.
Oh, that's correct. You think
That
he ought
is
to
what
kill
do you think
correct.
about
people?
that one, Michael?
That's correct. How do you not
Agrees.
Did
understand how
Matt
that is a
Adams
correct
just
syllogism?
debunk another theist?
Michael
Just
just
a
debunked
That
physicist.
the
was
debate.
clutch.
How do you not understand Matt's example?
So you think we do understand it? It proves the absurdity of your argument.
It
You are now
doesn't.
committed to saying serial killers ought to kill people.
In order to be serial killers, yeah. How else
So
would there be
that
serial
that
killers?
speaks nothing to morality, though.
Michael,
Correct.
humans
Right.
kill people, right?
We're not talking about morality at
He
all now.
doesn't get it. This is just
Not in
useless.
terms of
I've
bridging
realized
this
that
is
there's like
odd gap that J Mike thinks is impossible to
He
traverse.
wants to continue
then bridge
being a
it, bridge
serial
it,
killer. He
bridge
ought to
it.
kill people,
No, no,
right?
no. In
Yes.
order to be a serial killer, he must have killed multiple people.
You said he ought to keep going.
I
You're
didn't say
giving a
he ought to keep
hypothetical.
going.
You know what a
Yes, you
hold
did.
on, stop. You know what a hypothetical imperative is versus a categorical imperative?
Michael, do humans kill people?
It's fine when you want to say
Sometimes.
Yeah, then I ought to kill people because
look,
I'm a
it's
human.
fine if you just say if I want some Jordans, okay, and I have some money, right? Then I ought to buy some Jordans. That's fine. I have a descriptive value of some
Absurd,
money,
Michael.
and then I
That's
ought to
not
do it because
fine. That
it's
doesn't
something I
follow.
value. So then the conclusion follows because I have this value in my premises. But you're seemingly not understanding that when you invoke these things like if I want to be a serial killer, I should do this. If I want to be a human, I should do this. That's fine if you make a conditional statement. You're just not realizing hypothetical imperatives don't get you out of the fucking issue, dude. It's like very trivial. It's like a very trivial point for you to
All
invoke
right, so then
a
let it
conditional
aside.
But yeah,
statement
but
on a
equally,
goal you
equally,
agree with.
equally
Look,
though,
it's really
equally, to be
easy
fair
for
to
me
Let's
to say if
accept
Michael,
I
that I
want.
see
to
no
It's
be,
really
problem
easy
with
for
the
me
but
to
to
is-ought
be
say if
fair
gap.
I
to
want
Michael,
everybody to die, I should go stab them. That
to
theory would
Michael,
follow,
to be fair to
right?
Michael, if it's so trivial, it should be it should be easily dismissed, and
Good
clearly it's
point.
not been. So
We
you
are
know,
dismissing it. Literally, no one
So
agrees
maybe
with
it's
him
not
on
as
this
trivial as
stage.
you believe it to be.
Literally, does anybody agree with Michael? Flash
no.
your mics if you do.
I used to agree with Michael. That's the problem. I used to deny the Izot gap the same fucking way he's doing now, and I
So who
realized I
broke your
embarrassed
mind?
myself by doing this. Right?
Right.
I
J,
wish you wouldn't do it.
Jmike.
I was a moral
Is
realist,
that why?
and
That's
I
Is
why
that
you're
why
realized
you're
angry.
so? Is
You're
that why you're
angry
so
because you
invested in this
feel
shit?
that you
you can
must
You
still be a
need to
justify
Hey,
let
realist.
the
go,
ego
Michael.
bro.
you've taken on.
By the way, you can
You need
still
to
be a
let go of
realist.
your
And
past. Just
accept the
let go.
gap.
Let it go.
Okay. So hold
You
on.
can,
We need to
Michael, you can
explain.
still accept the gap and be a realist. Like
So
this is what like people like anti-realists get frustrated
For
at this because
example,
they're
Hillary
like
Putnam
the
argues that
reason talking
philosophers that
about
accept
agree that the
Hume's
gap
is-ought
exists, I can
distinction
still make a
reject his
case.
reasons in making it and thus undermine the entire claim.
Jmike,
Uh,
can I speak?
You guys go ahead. I'm about
So,
done.
so,
As
so
much as I can tolerate.
the thing about knowledge is, knowledge is very dynamic, right? I know there are people that said you cannot do this from this, right? It's good to hold those kind of positions, but I will implore you to always just have a free mind to listen. Nothing is impossible. Even in philosophy, right? You might
Oh
have
no.
a lot of people that says you can't derive is from an author, or whatever it is.
That's fine. Then do it.
you
I
got
don't need.
rid of
This
it.
nigga
Okay.
is
We
snapping
did
me
several
You just
times.
agree
You didn't like
and
any of the
you make a
examples.
substantive case.
Okay.
You can do that for anything in
He's
philosophy.
just
You can
saying,
make a
let it go,
substantive
man.
case for
yo.
whatever you want.
Maybe
It's
Do it.
one
not
day
re-
you'll
it's
see an
not relevant.
is-ought and you'll be done.
Yeah,
Don't
it's
just
just
jump in and
it's just what he's
say
saying was trivial as well. Just fucking
totally
if that's
trivial.
the
No
case,
one cares.
you can bridge the Azot. Just do it.
I think Jay
I'm
cares
not
a
stopping
whole
you. I'm
lot.
doing it. That's the whole reason I've been here for 2-3 hours. Has been trying to
Okay.
get Michael to do that, and he left twice, and
And
he
you
still hasn't.
failed. No, I
All
got
right.
kicked
So
off the stage.
nobody but Michael agrees you can get an ought from an is, and
That's
there are
not true.
atheists and theists on this stage. Does everyone agree with that? Apart from Michael. So
Yeah.
maybe we should move on.
Nobody worded whether they agreed with it or not. So for all we know, they all disagree.
Michael,
Just
we
Yeah,
already
they're all
thing.
scared to say so,
just
Michael. You're
read
right.
up, just read it.
Maybe. I'm
I
just
see
saying.
what Michael.
Yeah, no,
With
I
respect,
printed
bro.
out the
Yeah,
Wikipedia page on the
but
is-ought
I was
help.
gonna
I will
say, with
read through it,
respect, yeah,
and I guarantee I will find flaws in the reasoning.
yeah. Please do that. Please do that.
Sure.
Like respectfully, do that, man.
I
Because
guarantee it.
I saw that you were
Will
googling.
you
You were
overturn
googling
classical
responses to the
logic? Let me
Izort.
know.
We saw
No,
that you
I
googled
looked up the
responses to the
Wikipedia
Izort
page
and
because you
tried to
guys kept
debunk it.
complaining that I wasn't looking into the literature. So,
Yeah,
I'm a
but
Yeah,
genuine
okay.
operator. I'll look
Silly
into it
Billy.
more. You
Yeah,
really think that it's
Wikipedia is a great
So you
place
conclusively
to
call him a
start.
silly
provable
Billy? Did
that
you
I
just call him a
can't get
silly
to an
Billy?
ought from an is?
Yeah.
I will check the logic.
Yeah, the Wikipedia is a great place to start in the literature. You should start with David Hume first and see if you agree with him.
The
Right?
literature
That's
is
a good
referencing
thing.
David Hume.
Okay.
And I don't know why
Okay.
you would say not to start with Wikipedia. It's an excellent source to
Do
start
Okay.
with.
If you
Does
don't
Stanford.
want to
Do
start with the
Stanford.
guy that
Go for
you don't
Stanford
want to start with the
first.
guy
I'll
that
go to
presented
the
the problem.
Stanford
Okay,
Philosophy
that's fine.
Dictionary as
Don't start
well.
with the guy that presented the fucking problem. Start with Wikipedia. Do that.
the
Yeah,
thing
I
is,
will.
Michael, You literally said humans ought to act like they
Are you going
do,
to say I
and
ought
then
not?
I think Jay said something like humans kill
No,
people,
it
so I
doesn't
ought to
follow
kill
for me to say
people.
you ought
The,
not.
the,
You
the,
can do
the
whatever
other
you
one.
want. It's your value. That's the point, dude. You don't get it though. Right?
Couple
You
of
just demonstrated.
things.
You just demonstrated it by saying that. Right? No, you ought not go to
Calm
rebuild a city.
down,
Right? You're
dude.
absolutely right because it doesn't follow. Now you're starting to get it.
I feel like
Wow, we
I
should
feel
all
like
give
Michael's
Michael a
winning
round
at
of
this
applause.
point.
He's starting to fucking get
Michael,
it
I
now.
feel like
I
Michael's
am.
he's
Michael's just
getting
Jay's
trolling.
going
no,
nuts.
he's definitely
That's
winning.
what's going
Yeah,
on.
I think he is too. I think we need to stop focusing on him, give someone else a chance to make some kind of argument or contention or change the topic, because we could do this all day with Michael.
I had a couple of things to say, but I have to leave now. I don't know if I
No,
should
I'll
just say them to get
definitely
it
leave it
started
at
for you guys, or should I just save it for next time when I have time? There's a couple of
I
things.
think
Well,
you
you
should
could
get.
spark. Yeah, go ahead. You could spark us off anyway, even if you have to leave, and then we'd change the subject, would be.
Yeah. So is odd gap disprove moral realism? I guess would be my question because
No, it doesn't.
I don't
No,
think on his face that it does.
no, it does not. I tried to say that. I said, look, you don't have to be this
Right.
stubborn and deny the gap. You can still be a realist. That's why this is so like
Yeah.
frustrating to me.
That's what I
Right?
thought
Like,
he was trying to save it so much for. That's the purpose that I
it's
thought
like
he was
for me,
trying to
it's like
save.
for you to die on this hill is to be like, wow, you don't even realize that you can just accept
Okay.
this and move on as a realist.
What if we
That's
talk about moral
Same could be
realism
said about
then?
you,
And the
Jay.
second, okay, then we're in agreement. And the
You don't
second thing
look,
was that
I don't have a problem with it, but you call yourself a philosopher in these rooms, and I'm glad that
He's
this
not
exchange happened.
a
I'm
philosopher.
gonna say.
Michael,
I don't
yeah, the
call
Michael,
second
myself a
thing
Michael is
was
philosopher.
disagreeing with you. You ought not argue incessantly. See what I did there,
Agreed.
guys?
Well,
Oh,
hold on.
Yeah,
I
that's a
think
good
Ben
See,
had
spot
another
for.
question. I think
I
Ben
just
has to
bridged the
leave.
gap.
Ben, go
Oh,
ahead.
oh, the
beautiful.
second
I
point was
love it.
that Jmike, you said like the argument of smoking's bad for you, therefore you shouldn't smoke. Well, a lot of people would accept that argument, and I don't think it's because they're illogical. I think they have like a hidden premise in there, right? That they do,
Exactly. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
Yeah, you get it.
maybe
Yeah, Ben, you
Michael
get it. That's
is
fine.
feeling
Yeah.
it's like hidden premises or something, like when he
Yeah,
talks about.
yeah, exactly. The value is
So you
subsumed,
presume the
and exactly.
existence of premises whenever something might disagree with your conclusion.
No. What Ben is saying is that the value when someone concludes, right, that like they shouldn't smoke, it's just because they bought into a premise that they care about their health. That
How are
wasn't
you
just
sure that that is always true?
because that's the value you identify out of their conclusion. Duh.
Gotta go,
What do you
guys.
mean?
Nice
Do you
chatting.
really want to? Do
Okay.
you really want to ask that question? Do you really want to ask that question?
I'd like
You
you to
don't think
prove it. You're
you
stating that it's
don't
true in
think that
all
I can
Oh
cases.
my
pinpoint the
God.
value from a conclusion that someone
Jay, just
assumes?
let it go. You're pissing everybody off.
Okay, look. If that was the case, I don't care. I don't really
Look,
care
if
about
it
this.
helps, I'll leave because
Just engage
obviously
in the
I can't
actual
be in this
argument.
room
I really
without you
don't care what people
continually
think
bringing
about
up the is-up
it.
problem.
But
So
we are
goodbye,
talking about
everybody. I
objective
wish you would you.
morality. I
Like, I really don't care what people think about me. That's fine. But if you want to
just
engage in the argument, that's great.